Hey everybody, welcome back to my podcast, More to the Story. I am your host, Jada Cherise, and I am so excited for my final guest of season one. And I just can't believe it. A man has come up to me like, yo, I want to tell my story. And I appreciate all the women that we've had, but we also need to hear from men too. And I always say, we all have a story, whether it's a man or a woman. We've been broken, and it's our job to tell our story, and I keep it because we never know who we're helping or helping heal by telling our stories. So, it was Soul Sessions 4th year anniversary. Shout out to them. And I performed there. I did a few pieces September 29th. So again, shout out to Soul Sessions. If you have not been to one of their sets, it is a whole vibe. Like, it was so much fun. It was so lit. I'm so glad that I was able to bless the stage and the people that I've met, especially the guest that we have today. I came off stage and he's just like, it's nice to meet you. I would love to come on your podcast and tell my story. And I'm just like, shut up. Like, for real? So I would like to introduce Daniel the Poet.
How
Do you want to be called that? Daniel the Poet? That's good? Or
that's cool. Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah. You sure? What would you prefer?
It could be the Poetic Gent, the Shy Bard.
There we go.
Whichever one. Daniel's fine though.
Okay. So we have Daniel with us, the Poetic Gent. He has a story. I mean, it's deep, and it goes from religion to marriage to just him wanting to break the cycle of things that, someone has seen in their past or from their parents. And it's not always easy to tell your story. So I'm just so grateful that he's here today. I did some research on religious trauma syndrome.
Wow.
Right?
Never heard of that.
So me either. I was looking at our notes. Don't read it.
Oh, okay.
I see you.
All right.
I was looking at our notes, based on your story and the phone conversation we had, and I was just like, let me do some research. So it says religious trauma syndrome is a function of both the chronic abuses of harmful religion and the impact of serving one's connection with one's faith and faith community.
Mm-hmm.
Breaking out of a restrictive mind controlling religion. Finally leaving a restrictive religion can be a major personal accomplishment after trying to make it work and going through many cycles of guilt and confusion, resulting in problems with self-worth and fear of terrible punishment.
Wow.
Is that not deep?
Wow.
And this, in so many words, this is what, we talked about on the phone. This is what you felt.
Yeah.
And
yeah,
I said,
definitely.
This is perfect. We have to discuss this. So hearing that, like, what do you think?
I never knew that they actually had a term for it.
Right? And I don't know if this is like legit, but I found it online, and you can find so many things. Exactly, Google. You can't always trust Google, but you touched on these things, just mind controlling and staying somewhere because of your religion. And then you also thought, if I leave, I'm going to be punished,
Yeah, absolutely. It's crazy, but everything in there is exactly how I felt. The lack of self-worth, the guilt, confusion, everything. It's interesting that you would find that on Google. I never thought to research that.
Yeah. So let's take our listeners, to the very beginning. I don't know if it was when you were younger. You mentioned that religion actually divided your family. So was that in the beginning? Yeah. What was that like? What did you see growing up, or how did this come to be that religion actually divided?
Well, I didn't exactly know as a kid, seeing everything transpire. But as I gotten older, I noticed that my father wasn't sitting with my family with Bible study, and he had decided to go to his own church.
Okay.
So I kind of put two and two together in determining that religion was one of the things that contributed to the divide of my family. I'm sure there were other things that were happening between my mom and my dad, but that was definitely at the center. When I gotten older, my father did inform me that his change in beliefs kind of resulted in him being excommunicated from everybody that was a part of the same religious beliefs as my mother.
Okay.
And from that point on, it was like, okay, well, that was definitely the divide there.
How long did they stay together?
I wish I could give you an exact amount of time. I believe I was 6 when my parents separated, but by that time, my brother was 3 years older than me, so they maybe 10 years. Yeah.
With practicing different beliefs?
No, they were practicing the same beliefs up until that point.
Yeah. And then
it was like, yep.
Wow.
I'm not doing this. So, on one end, my father believes in Jesus at that point. On the other end, my mom was like, there's a Messiah, but
it's not Jesus.
It's not Jesus.
What did they practice at first?
I believe it was just anything from the Old Testament. They primarily focused on the Old Testament, all of the laws, the commandments, and things of that nature, and dietary laws. We didn't celebrate any holidays or anything coming up, which was fine. I never had a problem with that. But, that was just kind of what I was taught. So
Mom basically took over when it comes to raising you guys. It was her beliefs that you guys followed?
Sort of. Because my mom never positioned herself as the head of the household.
Okay.
She had, met my stepfather at that time, and whatever he was teaching, that's what we followed.
Got it.
Yeah.
Okay. So tell me about, we talked about your experience of actually turning away from your beliefs. You ventured out. Was that after you had gotten married, or beforehand did you start trying different churches?
No, that was once I had gotten old enough and I left my mom's house. There was like a lot of, in my opinion, there was a bit of hate toward anybody that wasn't black.
Okay.
And I didn't agree with it. So my mom, if she hears this, she's not going to like this, but I dated a Hispanic woman when I was 19.
Did she know?
No. No, my mom had no idea. It was only for a short period of time, but I was curious. I was like, everybody can't be what I've been taught that they are. So that was the start of that. And then I'd met someone I was dealing with for a long period of time. And once we broken up, that's when I was like, okay, well, you know what? I got to find something on my own. I can't really roll with what I've been taught growing up. And I want to have a mind of my own to say, okay, well, this makes sense, and I'm going to go with that. So I started going to different churches. I attended a mosque because I wanted to be grounded in something, not based off of what I'd been told or what I believe. Okay.
What are your beliefs now based on what you were taught growing up?
Well, my beliefs now are simply there's a God.
Mm-hmm.
There's definitely a God. As far as to say concretely that any set of beliefs is the end-all, be-all, I don't do that.
Okay.
I just believe in God.
Mm-hmm. And that's enough for you.
That's enough for me.
I got it. So our conversation that we had on the phone when you began to tell me your story, it was really marriage and religion.
Mm-hmm.
It was a struggle. It was a fight. And you couldn't find a balance, if you will.
I couldn't find a relationship for that.
Yeah.
I mean, most people didn't want to deal with it. When I was growing up, it was, once I got into a place where I decided, okay, well, this is what I'm going to practice.
Okay.
I was going to be his Hebrew Israelite. I'm not going to say the name of the church,
mm-hmm.
but I'm going to be a practicing Hebrew Israelite. It's a lifestyle. It's a belief system. This is what I'm going to do. It makes a lot of sense. I believe in Jesus Christ, and He's the Savior, and you can only get to the Father through Him, and things of that nature. So I was very much so deep in that, and following the book word for word. That meant dietary laws. That meant the 10 Commandments. That meant the feast days that's mentioned in Leviticus 23.
Mm-hmm.
It's everything that was there. That's what I was doing. Practicing on the Sabbath, that being Saturday and not Sunday. So when I would meet people, there was this disconnect.
Mm-hmm.
They'd be like, oh, well, you can't hang out on Friday nights? No, I don't, because that's part of the Sabbath. The Sabbath starts from the evening time and is from evening to evening. So I wouldn't do anything Friday nights or Saturday mornings and afternoons, and it was like this. Okay, yeah, I don't know about you.
Yeah, we can't kick it with you.
We can't kick it with you. It was some people that were just like, oh, well, you don't celebrate holidays either. Well, what do you do?
Right.
I mean, I live life. That's really it. And I would not be able to find anybody for the life of me. And when I did, it wasn't lasting long because of those differences.
We just discussed religion and how it was hard for you in relationships. Let's get to you in marriage. Let's start from the beginning. How did you meet your wife?
Well, I'd seen my wife in high school. I used to think that she was dating my boy, so I felt like that was like a thing I had to stay away from. I soon found out that wasn't the case, but we became friends. Okay. She was my banker, and I'd see her like every Friday. I'd go in,
handling my
money, and hey, we have a little conversation here and there, and we'd split way or we'd part ways. I never considered myself as any form of a potential candidate because the guy that she was with was the complete opposite of me. I'm talking like locks, heavy rap music. I don't mean like the substance hip hop, but I mean just straight like trap music and sagging. I was like, no.
Okay, not the sagging part.
She want the bad boy. She want the bad boy. I'm not the bad boy, so I'm just gonna place myself in this friend zone thing here. And I, at no point did I ever think that it was gonna be anything between us. But as time would go on, we started talking. We got into religious conversations, and she showed a level of, I want to say, she was just very open. Yeah. She wasn't so shut off like everyone else was that I had met, and it was like, oh, okay.
Open to your beliefs in religion. Okay.
She wanted to come to church, and she did, and she liked it, and we had more and more conversations, and that immediately was like, oh man,
this might be it for me.
This might be it. This gotta be it. Nobody has wanted to deal with me with these beliefs, but here she is, and she's listening, and she's taking it in, and she likes it.
Yeah, open-minded.
I don't have to worry about these conversations later on when Christmas comes around, and can we put a tree up? No, no, we won't.
Right, ever.
So her being so receptive to that, and then just conversations over a period of time, I felt like, okay, this has got to be it. We're friends. We have this foundation of being friends, and now we have the religious beliefs here. And when I tell you I jumped into it, I mean, no safety gear whatsoever. I dove right into the marriage. Head first. It was like, yo, this is it. I don't need anybody else.
Really?
Yeah.
So how many months would you say? Or was it a year? Or
we dated for 3 months before we went to the courthouse and got married.
Really?
We had gone to Wisconsin Dells, and the whole trip back home was like 3 hours. We're planning the wedding. Okay, these are going to be the colors. This is going to be the songs.
Serious?
These are going to be bridesmaids and groomsmen. This is where it's going to be at. We want it at this venue. And I mean, literally, we had gone and put a deposit down on the venue before there was any proposal or anything.
Oh my goodness. Wow. We didn't talk about this on the phone, y'all.
No.
This is news to me.
Yeah. We did all of that.
Outside of her being open-minded to your beliefs and, just being active with you and visiting the church, was there anything else that was just like, okay?
Yeah. She showed a lot of compassion. She was doing some volunteer work at some shelters and whatnot, and that you don't see a lot of people doing that type of thing. That was like okay, you pretty dope. She was going to school. She's very business driven. She's business oriented. She ambitious.
Okay.
So all of those things considered, okay, you got something here.
Okay. So within the marriage, it wasn't always great. It wasn't always this beautiful story, and it wasn't as exciting as planning it, on that 3-hour drive from Wisconsin Dells. Yeah. What happened?
In all honesty, it's we both didn't know each other very well, nor did we have time to get to know each other. We just jumped headfirst into everything. So I don't think boundaries were laid out at all. We simply just went into it with whatever we believed our partner should be. Okay, well, if you're my wife, this is what you're supposed to do, or this is how you should act. If you're my husband, this is what you're supposed to do, or this is how you should act. And it only led to a lot of disappointments and unnecessary arguments. I wanted her, or I felt as though she would accept me as the friend that she had known. I'd be that same person. The person that had a whole lot of female friends, and that's not something she was for, not something she was even ready for. There would be times where it could be, we'd just be having a conversation, and I went about trying to let her know about all of the women that I knew and I was cool with. And there would be somebody I'd leave out. So later on, oh, I never heard of this girl. Who is this?
I could see me saying that. Where did she come from?
Where did she come from? What are you guys doing? I mean, you're talking on the phone with her, or text messages and things of that nature. And then I would say that I was overly expressive about any of these relationships that I had, so much so that I think it may have created some insecurities, because for her it was, well, that's not something you should be talking about. It's like, well, I didn't think that was a problem.
Did she have a lot of male friends?
No, and that was one of the things. She had them prior to me, but she decided to cut them all off. I didn't tell her to do that. She just did it on her own, and I guess she expected me to do so. It was just like, no.
So these friends that you had, these were strictly friends?
Yeah.
Like nobody used to talk to, nothing inappropriate, like these were your friends? One
was inappropriate. And that
was still your friend?
That was still my friend.
You didn't cut her off?
No.
Why not?
It was inappropriate because of
I need an answer.
It was inappropriate because of something that happened between us while we were drunk, and nothing happened after that.
Okay.
But I expressed that from the beginning, like, okay, this is my friend, this happened. I just want you to know this isn't that. I FaceTime her like, hey, I want you to meet so and so.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah. But that still was like a no.
Yeah.
She tried to accept it, but no.
What if she had these male friends, a lot of them, that she talked to, and FaceTime on the phone? You would be totally okay with that?
Yeah. The reason being, I was in a relationship prior to her where I tried to control all of that.
Okay.
I was telling her, like, no, you can't talk to this person, you can't hang out with this person, I don't like this, and I think that it only created more problems than it did solve them. So from that point on, I decided I'd never be that person. So if she had friends, those are your friends, I trust you.
That makes sense. Speaking of that, I know in my past relationship, it was so many things I tried to control that I never wanted to be that person again, because I didn't know if I was wrong for that, or if it made sense, or maybe I was nagging, or maybe I was asking too much, you know. But now it's certain things with the relationship I'm in now, and it's just like, no, I want you to do that. But it's just like, well, he didn't like that, so I don't want to take that to another relationship, because I feel as though if this man didn't like it, then this man wouldn't either. So I wanted to change those things. So I can definitely relate to that.
Yeah, you don't have to, like, for her to have those wants and needs of her spouse, it's nothing wrong with that, but you have to make sure that that's the spouse that you're getting, that spouse is somebody that's into that type of thing, that's going to be on that same level. I was never there, and there was just this, okay, well, you need to get there.
Yeah.
Well, no, I'm not. So we just kind of stuck in it because we were married.
Right. Did you see any red flags in the beginning that you ignored? You did.
I did. And I didn't.
This was before marriage.
This was before marriage.
Okay.
I believe it was before marriage. I can't recall the exact point in time. And some of my friends can attest to this. When I was talking about my wife, I would talk in a way that we're going to be great. It's going to be amazing. And I recall her on the phone snapping on an ex. And when I tell you she was snapping, cursing this man clean out. And I said, no, I never put her through that. She would never have a reason to be like that with me. Granted, he did some things that would make anybody very agitated. But for me, that would have been a red flag. Like, maybe you could have handled that a little differently.
Did she have kids?
Yeah, she had a 7-year-old when I met her, and I recall when I met him, he was like peeking around the corner of the stairs, like, who is this guy coming over here to talk to my mom? He looked like he wanted to fight me, and I can't square up with your kid, but yeah, she had a kid, and the way I went into that was just, I'm gonna be a stepfather. I'm gonna step in where he stepped down. So
yeah, okay. Did you ever think that you would marry somebody who had kids, or did you have this idea of we're going to get married, we're going to have our first child together, and were there any challenges being a stepfather?
I never thought I would marry somebody that had a kid. Never. But I wasn't opposed to the idea if the person was great enough. So, like, the reason that I wasn't was because when my mom and my dad separated, my mom was left with 6. I'm talking about Bebe's kids. Yeah. We weren't like the greatest, but my stepfather ended up taking my mom in and then had 2 more with it. So it was like, well, I mean, what's 1 kid? What's 6? If this man could do it, I definitely can do it. I can't put anything off on the woman for having kids whenever she would have the kids, Yeah, I'm not going to hold it against her.
Okay.
But as far as like being a stepfather and being in that role, it requires a level of patience that I don't think everyone has, and at times I didn't have. Because you're kind of fighting for trust with this kid, right? Now, if it's a newborn, you obviously don't have to do that. But this is a 7-year-old, and all he's known is his mom. So here comes this guy, and he's like, "Yo, go clean your room."
Who are you talking to?
Who are you talking to?
Period. Mom?
Right. You can call my mom and have her tell me, but you're not going to tell. Not to say that he was that kid, but it's those types of challenges where you have to step in and be the authoritative figure, and it's like, can I really do that? Is it going to be a problem?
Yeah.
But that's a whole another story, because there are so many facets to that and so many things that can happen. I had actually written about that. Maybe we could talk about that another time.
Okay.
Yeah.
I can relate to it. That was a deal breaker for me, somebody who had kids, because I went through something that was just a mess, and I was just like, never again, because I always felt like after that situation, he is always going to go back to his child's mother. That's just how it is. Or she's going to go back to, her child's father. And it was a lot of trust that we had to build, but it's also a challenge when you don't have kids, and like you said, it's about feeling comfortable to even be that authoritative, step parent, or just you have to step up, but at the same time, do I feel comfortable stepping up? And it's just a fight between that person who actually has the kid, and then trying to make everybody come together to respect each other, to love each other, and to accept each other. So it is a challenge, and I would have never thought that I would be in this situation, but he makes it so worth it. He is everything that I was praying for.
And that's a beautiful thing, because the other part of that I didn't express is not only are you dealing with that child, but you're dealing with the parent, right? So for her, she's been this single mom for however long she was doing it, and now it's okay. Well, I'm the father figure. Are you going to undermine my authority, or you going to listen to what I tell you to do with this kid? And it's this sort of battle at times, because it's like, okay, well, I don't know how long you're about to be here.
Right. And just imagine y'all got married and, within 3 months. You haven't built a relationship with him, let alone her,
At all.
So, wow. Okay,
Yeah.
Another story.
Yeah.
Another day. So let's talk about in the marriage when it became toxic, where it was just, how did that start when you realized who you were married to, the real her, and the things that you went through
Well, I would go on to say that the real her is a compassionate person. I will not deny that at all. I think that a lot of what she's experienced growing up has damaged her vision of what proper love would be, or at least how I would see love.
Okay.
When I realized it was toxic was when I started to feel like I couldn't talk. Like I inhaled some type of gas that was just like restricting any form of expression. So what would happen as a result of that is when she'd want to talk, it'd be aggressive, and I don't respond well to that. I'm not a confrontational person. I don't like aggression.
Mm-hmm.
I tend to shut down if it gets to a place where I see you yelling, and I'm like, all right, you know what? I'm not gonna say anything because I want to be intentional about the words that come out of my mouth. Mm-hmm. I'm not just gonna say something that is going to harm you for the sake of making you feel bad during an argument. So when I would do that, I start off by going to the basement or going to play the game. That was always my go-to. Okay, all right, I'm done talking. Let me go pick up these controllers, play some Call of Duty or something.
Yeah.
It got to a point where she got tired of that and would start to force conversation. Okay, well, I'm going to turn your system off. I'm going to turn the TV off. I'm going to do this. After a while, it was, okay, well, I'm just going to leave the house because this is not conducive.
Yeah.
But me leaving the house on top of what she's experienced in her past, that didn't sit well either. So there was a battle in trying to leave the house. Early on in the relationship, she had always threatened to kick me out. This was her home. I was just paying the mortgage. That was it.
So you moved in with her when you guys got married? Okay.
Mm-hmm. I moved in. It was her home. And, I was just simply paying the mortgage and, whatever miscellaneous bills. And there was just this, whenever she felt the opportune time to say, get out, she did. She constantly told me to get out. And eventually I said, all right, I'm packing my stuff and I'm gone.
Right.
But as I was doing that, a fight ensued. Jumping on me, punching me.
Was this every time you left, tried to leave the house? It would get physical?
Initially, it didn't get physical every time.
Okay.
But that one particular time when I said, okay, I'm gone, that was the very first time I said, I'm gone. I'm packing my stuff and I'm leaving. That's when it got physical. That's when it got very verbal. She was saying things in front of her son that was very inappropriate. And it's like, okay, I need to get out of this place. So at this particular time, I'm trying to walk out the door. She jumps on my back, and I throw her off of me. Her son, young, not knowing what's going on, he yells, don't hurt my mom, I'm going to tell the police. At this point, I feel like my livelihood is threatened. I cannot come back here at all. All it would take is for the two of them to say that I did something to her, and my life is over.
Right.
So I got in a hotel room. Well, I called the police, had them so that I can get like some stuff out the house. Went to a hotel room. She had to go to work the next day, and I was like, all right, cool. Packed all my stuff up.
When she went to work?
When she went to work. Left my ring on the counter and went to my dad's house.
Y'all, my mouth is open right now. He didn't tell me this either on the phone. You left your ring.
I left my ring on the counter.
Packed all your stuff.
Packed all my stuff. All that was left was, I believe, my TV stand and like a couple of pairs of shoes. That was it. Everything else was packed in my little 2013 Hyundai Sonata.
So was it the fact that him saying that he was going to call the police, where you felt your livelihood was threatened, that you were just like, I'm leaving this time? Like, yeah. I'm packing my stuff.
Yeah, well, that was the first time I'd actually left, though. Like, any other time I'd go and I'd sit in my car.
Okay.
I'd go to a bar or something like that. But I was like, no, I'm gone. And that was the first occurrence of many where I said, oh, I need to get out of here. But I would end up coming back because ultimately my religious beliefs told me I couldn't leave.
You couldn't leave this toxic marriage.
I could not leave. She did not commit adultery.
Mentally, physically abusive.
She did not commit adultery, so I had to stay. There were times that she go on to talk about my expression as a man as though I was feminine for having the expression, and it would make me less and less interested in wanting to tell her how I feel about things.
What made you feminine? I mean, from what I'm hearing, you didn't want to engage in an argument. You didn't want to raise your voice. You didn't want to go to this place that she wanted you to go to with her. as far as
Well,
verbally.
this is after the case, right? So what would make me feminine in those situations was the things that I felt the need to express something about.
Okay.
It'd be, oh, well, men don't worry about that type of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And then there were other things, say for instance, like I had back issues. I still have back issues. There would be times where I'd say, oh man, I really can't, do that. And it'd be, well, I have a baby. Women go through pregnancy. Like, you can deal with this. And it's like, really?
Wait a minute. Well, that escalated quickly.
Like that's how you feel, and it would make me feel like am I tripping?
Yeah.
Because this does hurt. This hurts. But those types of conversations, little things I didn't like the going on the social media and posting these subliminal messages, and I've always hated that.
It's an invitation of people to get in your business and your relationship and what you have going on.
Mm-hmm. And everybody knows when it's happening.
Mm-hmm.
They see all of the, oh, I love him.
Mm-hmm.
And then it branches off to this like big gap of nothing, and then it's, you deserve better.
Right,
oh, well.
right. If he not doing this, ladies, you need to XYZ, and yeah.
Yeah, so it was a host of issues. A lot of times there was a use of my spiritual beliefs against me to say, well, you know what God is going to do to you. God
if
is going to do this. If you do this, if you leave, if you, well, pretty much it was all centered around if I left. Yeah.
So she used it against you.
A lot.
Did she ever get to a point where it was like, you know what, I was wrong. I apologize. How can we fix this?
She done that, and one thing I'll say is she's very much so a fighter.
Mm-hmm.
Very much so. I'm the type where I'm like,
in a good way.
In a good way.
Okay.
I'm not saying, blacking eyes and all that. I'm not saying that. But she's less likely to be the one to say, all right, I'm calling this quits.
Mm-hmm.
That's me. When I see things going south and I don't see it really getting any better, I'm like, nah, I'm gone. Like I said, I'm not confrontational. I'm not argumentative. I don't like to sit here and yell at each other. So when I see it get there, I just shut down and go somewhere else. So that was like one of her biggest problems with me. But she would always try to fight. So if there was a point where, say for instance, after I had packed all my stuff, she was like, okay, I'm sorry. She called me constantly. Sorry, I'll do this, that, and the third. And we had a conversation. She said, listen, I'll put your name on the title. You don't ever have to worry about that again.
Of her house. So that she can't say, get out, it's my house.
I said, okay. All right. Okay, we can try it. Or if there was something that I had a problem with, she'd actively try. It may not be for a long period, but she'd actively try to make it better and revert back, usually.
Mm-hmm. How long did this go on? With her being verbally abusive, physically?
I would say 3.5, almost 4 years.
And you stayed the whole time because of?
Religious beliefs, yeah. I felt that I couldn't leave. And, I would talk to different people. There's this level of, oh, well, every man deals with this in their marriage. Oh, she put her hands on me before, too, bro. I know what you're feeling. It's like, why is that normal?
Mm-hmm.
If a woman's being abused, the very first thing anybody's going to tell her, you need to get out.
Mm-hmm.
If a man's being abused, it's different. Why?
Right.
Just, I've heard this term, happy wife, happy life. What about happy spouse, happy house? Why is there no... It's so different. I don't understand it. I will never understand it for the life of me.
That's a good point.
So it was always okay, well, she didn't cheat on you, brother. Even at the church that I was attending, there would be lessons where he'd say, oh, well, I don't do marriage counseling or couples counseling. I say, go to the book because that's your best counselor, which is right. If you follow those beliefs, like, you're good. But he would actively say this. He said, brother, come to me. And he say all these little things. He say, well, do she cook? Yeah. Do she clean? Yeah. Do she do that? Yeah. Okay, man, what you complaining for?
Wow.
That's all it's comprised of?
Wow. This is a perfect time to read Confinement.
A
A perfect time. Because at this point, Daniel is in this marriage and he feels stuck and he has to stay because of religious beliefs. He is following the book word from word, and she hasn't done anything, that would allow him to leave. So he feels stuck in this marriage, and he wrote this poem, Confinement.
Yeah, I wrote this poem 6 months into our marriage. Every action has a reaction. It starts with a simple transaction, a transaction of attraction between two separate factions, male and female. A fraction of one another but made whole together, or rather that's what we are taught to believe. Sometimes we deceive seeking to achieve that dream, and I'm not talking about Martin Luther King. What I speak of is a fairy tale, where you inhale butterflies that inhabit your stomach for what you'd like to believe is forever. However, your preconceived notions of what it would be are false when your teacher becomes time. You find that this isn't quite what you had in mind, that sublime beauty is most often only seen in movies, and at times like these, it's best to leave. But what if you were too naive? What if you now grieve because you can't? It seems hard to understand this, asking me what would make me withstand this. It's a brand, it's God. Described as omnipotent and benevolent, almighty and transcendent, a being that all should fear, and that very fear is what traps me here. Fear of the unknown. The chief cornerstone that said you should not leave your partner for any reason outside of adultery. So, you mean to tell me assault and battery isn't too rough? Discontentment isn't enough? If we make a mistake, does the Lord expect us to just live in misery for the rest of our lives? Stay with husbands or wives that drives us to be someone we aren't? We can pray and pray, but we will never get a definite answer. Instead, we are stuck with this cancer of the mind, one in which we are confined. Can we ever be free?
Wow. Fire, fire,
Thanks.
fire. Oh my goodness. So you wrote that 6 months into the marriage.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
were you feeling like that?
I felt like I had to stay. There was nothing in the Bible that gave me clearance to leave based off of what was going on. She hadn't cheated on me. She wasn't, and this is not to make it like she was just some demon or anything like that. She wasn't horrible,
Mm-hmm.
So it was like, okay, well, she didn't cheat, so all right, just suck it up.
So early on, you get married within 3 months. And then 6 months, so 3 months later into the marriage, you wrote this poem, Confinement.
6 months into the marriage, I wrote the poem Confinement.
Right. And here you guys are 3.5, 4 years later, still married?
Yep.
And you stayed because you had to.
Yep, I felt like I had to. I felt that if I did not stay, according to the book, I would be condemned to eternal damnation. I'd be going into the lake of fire. That'd be it.
But then you got to a point where,
I just said, this can't be life.
regardless of what the book says,
It can't be life. The way that I was looking at it was, as time was going on in the marriage, I was trying to find different ways to cope with the problems that I was having. So I started to ignore values, my integrity, my morals, and all that. I was staying out, sleeping in my car a lot of times. I was drinking excessively. I mean, like drinking to the point of throwing up. I started smoking weed. I never in my life thought for a second I would even pick up a blunt, let alone look at it.
wow. And that's what it drove you to.
I was just like, I gotta find something. So like I'd smoke, I'd eat an edible or something. I'd feel this temporary relief, like, oh, okay, I'm relaxed. And then at the end of it all, I'm still where I'm at.
Right.
I'm still where I'm at. And I started to get to a point of being suicidal. Because I felt like I'm going to go to hell anyway.
Why not?
Why not?
Wow. You said her words would cut deep, like so deep.
Mm-hmm. They were they were daggers, for sure. Because I told her this many times, like, I can forgive you. I can understand that, you're angry and you say these things and you say you may not mean them, but when they come out frequent enough, while I may forgive you, I won't forget. It sticks to me.
Right.
And it's something kind of crazy about, I guess, men and emotion. Because the only emotion that's ever really received from men is anger. if we show compassion, if we show some type of sadness or anything like that, like it's problematic. It's okay, well, you're weak. It's man up. You know, you're a man. You're not supposed to act like that.
Mm-hmm.
At no point is it you're human.
Mm.
You have emotions.
Right.
But when you're told that you cannot show all of these different emotions, anger is the only thing you turn to. That's why you got so many people out here losing their minds. You got men out here that's beating people up when really they just sad.
Yeah.
They dealt with some type of trauma and they don't know how to deal with it outside of anger because they've been told they cannot show anger.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they cannot show
emotion.
any
Right.
emotion other than anger. So it's tragic.
Dealing with all of this, as a husband, as a man, how did you feel, when she would treat you like this and verbally abuse you, and when she became physical?
I think that with a lot of things, you go through phases where you question whether or not there's any validity to what's being said to you. So you're like, okay, well, am I really that emotional? Am I kind of feminine? You start asking other people questions like, do you think that I'm overreacting? I started to feel worthless. Coupled with my beliefs and whatnot, it was just like, okay, well, I'm really not that great. And then people would tell you, oh no, you're good, you're a good guy, Daniel, you're this, I don't know about that. I started thinking about how my mom kind of had me on this pedestal, and like Daniel, you're this, but then I have this woman here that's telling me I'm not all of this, and it's like, okay, well, maybe that's the case.
Wow. What was your breaking point? Because I know you packed your things before,
Mm-hmm.
You went to your dad's house, right? Is that father's house, or?
My dad's house.
You went to your dad's house.
Yeah. The breaking point for me was just when I realized I was changing as an individual, when I was changing for the worse. Like I said, I never thought for a second that I'd even pick up a blunt.
Right.
And the fact that I was doing it, and then I started to do it frequently. It was like, this isn't you. None of this is you. My anger. I never been so angry in my life. I put a hole in my wall.
You probably didn't even know you had it in you.
Didn't know I had it in me. I didn't know I had it in me. And it's when at the point that I put the hole in my wall, my son was at the edge of the stairs. Just
Get
staring.
out.
Because her and I were arguing. And it just, in that minute, like, not in that minute, but in that moment, during the argument, she was saying something, and it was hitting me so hard, I got ready to choke her. And I turned back and put a hole in the wall. I was like, okay, I gotta go. This is, oh my God.
And the fact that your son was right there makes me think about what you said she saw growing up.
Mm-hmm.
Who knows if you stayed in this marriage and this is what keeps going on, and then now your son is picking up, and now here we are, another cycle of just brokenness, of abuse, verbally and physically.
Yep. You got to stop the cycle somewhere. You have to.
We talked about it, your breaking point over the phone, and you felt like, this is it, I'm ready, I can't do this no more, I don't care what the word says, I have to get out of this because this can't be life. You had actually found out some news.
Yep.
What did you find out?
Baby Grace.
Baby Grace.
My daughter.
She was pregnant.
My wife was pregnant. And it wasn't like a complete accident. So what led up to that was, prior to I had gone and had a surgery, I had a pilonidal cyst removed. So I was out for 4 months, and she was taking care of me during that whole time, changing the wounds, the packing, and all of that.
Things were good?
Things were becoming better. Like, prior to the surgery, I was like, I'm done with you.
Right.
I was done. But she was doing all these things, and I'm like, okay, well, maybe things are going to be okay. And something had happened to her prior, which I won't, divulge that information, but it was something like, okay, well, we're going to push to have another baby. Yeah.
There was Grace.
There was Grace. Boom!
The name
Hey!
is so beautiful.
Yeah, she named her Grace.
I remember you just discussing it with other people, as you explained, and they were like, you can't leave now.
Yep. There's the whole, oh man, you got a baby on the way? Man, you ain't going nowhere. Or once we found out that we were having a daughter, it was like, oh man, You having a daughter? You definitely ain't going nowhere. You might feel whatever you feel right now, but as soon as she pushes her out, all of that's gonna go out the window. No.
And that's why I always had this mindset of dealing with people with kids. When that baby comes, it usually brings people together, you know? But your mindset was, why bring another child into what's already damaged, right?
Yep. I didn't see things getting any better. We had, and it was an argument. It was really something small that blew up into something bigger, and it just kept growing.
Mm-hmm.
And it was just like, no, I'm not gonna keep going through this vicious cycle. So, you know, that entire time it was just like, yeah, I know what you think, but no. During that whole pregnancy, I slept in the basement.
Really?
I slept in the basement.
I wrote this piece, "A baby will not make him stay." And it wasn't towards anyone at all. It was just, I see it so often that so many women, they have these children thinking, okay, it's going to get better. Or, this is going to change him. He's going to treat me better. He's going to be a better man. And if he doesn't want to stay or be there, or if he doesn't want to change, a baby isn't going to change that.
Not at all.
A baby will not make him come home every night. A baby will not make him treat you better than the person he actually wants to be with. A baby will not change him. Stop having kids thinking it will fix what's already broken and what will always be broken.
Mm-hmm.
You were thinking, when you found out that you were having, baby Grace, we have to break the cycle of seeing abuse as children.
Yep.
And that was so powerful when you said that to me.
Yeah. It cannot be something that's normalized, to where your translation of love is, I'm going to hit you. Because if I didn't care, I wouldn't hit you.
All right.
That makes no sense.
Mm-mm. You got to a point where you began to rebuild yourself mentally.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when you wrote, I Am.
Yeah, I started back writing.
Yes.
I got into this place where I was just like, okay, man, I'm just going to start penning my thoughts. And I'd write my thoughts out, and I'd be inspired to write a poem after that. And when I got into the place of writing I Am, I was, in my thoughts, I was strictly expressing how I didn't know who I was.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know who I'd become. I didn't know who this angry person may have been. I didn't know who this guy was smoking, who this guy was with drinks in his fridge. I didn't know who this person was. So it was like, okay, I have to get back to who I am. And that's when this came. I said, I'm perfection. A new age messiah, higher than any human, and it's not from weed. I exceed every expectation with exceptional excellence. I purify the excrement that is humanity. And while I candidly express this vanity glaring into the vanity, it's all in vanity because I don't believe it myself. I'm perfection. At least that's how my closest associates portray me. Exalting my existence as exemplary, unaware of the tragic depths in my closet. If these skeletons could talk, how many views would change? Rearranging their thoughts and judging with a mighty gavel. As they unravel the masking tape revealing the dead, widespread hysteria would overtake the rural area known as my inner circle. But I'm perfection. That's the opinion of my elders. After all, the welders of our community know their creations. Extensive knowledge of the variations lead to accurate evaluations of character, so how could they possibly be wrong? They sing songs of idolatry, or at least it's close second. I reckon you should check into an institution if you feel otherwise, because they're wise, and who could question their years of experience? Truthfully, everyone. Senile seems to be synonymous with old age. You could gauge the reliability of their mental without a meter, so maybe they don't know what they're talking about. Maybe they can't be trusted. So who is left to define me? Definitely not the young, and certainly not the old. If I'm told it's narcissistic to think highly of oneself, then what must I do? Be truthful. I'm perfection. Minus the apostrophe and space. I'm imperfection. I acknowledge this through introspection. With that reflection comes redirection in my train of thought. I fought for years to make true the words my mother spoke of me, and when I fell short, it was without a parachute or cushion. As I crashed into reality, the impact left me bruised and unsure of myself. I could clearly see that I'm not perfect. But that's okay. Today, I shall share and embrace those things. I'm not 6 feet tall. I can't play basketball. Considered by few to be a lame because I like video games. I love hip-hop, some rap, but y'all can have that destructive trap. Y'all can have that destructive trap. I avoid commotion and I'm a man with emotions. What I lack in muscle, I make up for in brain. I've been trained to be perfect, but that's impossible. But I'm possible of doing one thing best, and that's being me. Imperfection. That's that piece.
I was so into it. What I lack in muscle, I make up in brain.
Yeah.
Love it.
Yeah, you see I'm a skinny guy. You know,
I'm not 6 feet tall. I don't play basketball.
Nope, not at all.
Wow, I like that. I like it. And that's I am.
It's embracing. It's just, taking time to embrace the things that make you you and not really caring so much about what the society would define as being a man. And in that moment, it was like she said that you're all of these things, but that doesn't make you.
Right.
It's like a quote that I posted on my Instagram, Poetic_Gent, if you want to follow. The
shameless plug.
Shameless plug, the quote was that, I'm probably going to tear it up. It's my own personal quote. That's what's funny about it. It was that, I'm just going to pull it up.
Okay.
I'm just going to pull it up. Just going to pull it up. What are words without you to define them? Remember, the dictionary does not predate our existence. And what I mean by that is simply, we gave words meaning, and we still give words meaning. So just what somebody tells you, what somebody says about you, you are the one that decides whether or not it's true.
Right.
You don't have to give it a reaction.
Mm-hmm. That's facts.
Yeah.
That's strong. So, where are you guys now? This marriage, from staying to leaving to coming back to we gonna figure this out to I'm really done this time, but I got a baby on the way. Where are you guys now?
Well, as I stated, she's a fighter, so she in no way wants to dissolve it, but I'm done. I'm completely checked out.
You done?
I'm completely checked out.
Mentally, physically?
I am removed. I told her that by the end of the year, I will be leaving the house.
What did she say?
She's not very receptive. That's that's the best thing I can say. She feels it's a personal attack, and it's not. It's self-preservation. So.
What about the kids? Like, what do you think about that?
That is something that scars me, and I haven't figured out a way of dealing with it yet, because I don't think anybody ever goes into the idea of having kids and thinking of raising them separate from the person you had them with, but I realize it's for the best.
It's for the best.
Yeah.
Still being there in the same house as her,
mm-hmm.
Have you seen any improvement, any effort? Have you reconsidered at all?
I've seen her, try, but from the history of it always kind of going back and reverting back to that place, it's like, I'd rather dissolve it. It's just, I'm going to dissolve it. And I mean, I haven't considered at any point since I made the decision to separate myself that.
You haven't reconsidered?
Nope.
Has there been a healing process for you?
Yeah, that's what this whole period of time has been. From the time that I said I'm done to now, I just been to myself. I've been reflecting. I've been writing. I've been, talking with different people.
Mm-hmm.
Just getting back to a place of comfort, I guess.
Yeah.
I've been uncomfortable for a while.
Mm. You told me on the phone, I'm done with fear.
Absolutely. Fear. Fear has kept me, and it's just like I said in the poem, fear has kept me in so many different things. And fear was one of the things that had me kind of like, okay, well, should I do the podcast? But I'm like, no. Anybody could benefit from this.
Right. I
remember when I was 17, I tackled a fear, and I told myself I would not fear anything from that point on. I tackled the fear of roller coasters. I looked like a crazy person in the process, but I tackled it,
Yeah, I love roller coasters. But you tackled it.
I tackled the fear, and from that point on, it was like, okay, roller coasters aren't that bad. I'm sitting at the front of every roller coaster. I want that drop before anybody else.
Right, it helps you a lot.
Yeah, it helps me a whole lot. It's a way of, without putting other people into my business, just getting it out of my system.
As a man, as a husband, as a man of God, what mistakes have you made reflecting on this whole marriage, this process?
Well, like I said, one of the things that she's always wanted me to do was to be more communicative, but I shut down. I shut down at the first sign of aggression or confrontation, and it's just like, unless it's like I'm fighting somebody, I don't want to look at my wife and think, all right, we finna box. You know, so
I hope not.
No, I'm not trying to go in the ring like that, you know. But when I see things becoming argumentative, where you're yelling, where you're saying things completely out of pocket, out of line, I gotta separate myself. And she hated that. She absolutely hates. To this day, she hates that, because I'll tell her in a hot second, I'm done talking, and I will not talk at all, and she will keep going.
I've never shared this before, but in my past relationship, there was one time we were playing, so I thought, but it kind of seemed like it was more serious on his end, and I was playing, and it was like we were play fighting, but he ended up grabbing me in a way where I actually hit my head, and I had this bruise on my head, and we actually had an argument, not about the bruise, but just, I was just joking, like I felt like that was intentional. And at this time we were still living together, but we were more so roommates. We couldn't stand each other, so I would look at this bruise and I just didn't know if he meant to do that, you know. And it was never very apologetic or anything, but just seeing it on my face was just, where have we gotten to, you know? Who are we, and who am I to allow this to be there? And I just felt like it was intentional. But another situation was, it was my cousin's wedding reception. He would turn into this person when he would drink, and I didn't like it. So I was trying to take his cup from him, and he lost it. Like, he squared up with me. He had his fist balled up, you know, just calling me out my name, just real disrespectful, like ready to fight me. And then I was just like, I can't do this no more. You know, like we're trying to fight for this relationship in some ways, but then again, it's like we know we don't want to be with each other, but you know, my family, I know your family, and then we have the same kind of group of friends and things like that. So it was just so many different reasons of where it was just like, we comfortable, this is what it is. But when I saw his fist balled up, I just didn't know who he was anymore. And it was like different occasions where we were at that point, and I was just like, I can't do this. Like, I can't be in the same house with you. I can't be in a relationship with you anymore. Just, I don't know who you are, and I don't know what you're capable of. But there's certain things that scarred me from that. And me and my current boyfriend, we may be joking or playing. It's just like, don't grab me like that. Don't do that, because it reminds me of how I felt, and I didn't know who he was. Not my boyfriend, but my past, you know. So I just never wanted to experience that again.
Yes, I think they called that like an attachment injury or some type of, it's a trauma where something happens that's related to something that happened in your past, and it may not be that exactly, but it brings you back to that place, and you're just like, no. But I did want to state something, and I forgot this little detail. Earlier in our marriage, both of us told each other that if we were not for our beliefs, we would not be together.
Oh, really?
I remember us having that conversation. It was very brief.
Wow.
And we laughed about it.
That wasn't funny.
It wasn't funny.
Oh my goodness.
It wasn't funny.
There were so many signs. I mean, 6 months into the marriage, you wrote confinement, you know?
Yeah.
Wow. Has your religion changed? Your beliefs?
I simply believe in God. You know, I believe that the Bible is a great guide. It can instruct you on a lot of different things. It has some historical value to it, but to say concretely that this is the end all be all, I can't say that. It's man written.
Religiously, and coming from the marriage that you've experienced, what advice do you want to give our listeners?
I think that when it comes down to religion, a lot of time we get to this place where we decide that, okay, my religion is right, and because mine is right, if you don't follow this, then we're going to have some problems. There's a lot of separation that comes about from religion, or more so the people that practice the religions. They don't know how to separate the fact that, okay, people are different. Mm-hmm. I'm not going to sit here and go to a place and tell you can't sit with me because you're Muslim. That's your religious beliefs. That's completely fine. I'm not going to do that with you if you're a Christian. I'm not going to do that with you if you're atheist. Whatever your beliefs are, you are completely entitled to that. Mm-hmm. At the end of the day, we're all human.
Right.
We're all human. Stop allowing religion to separate you from your loved ones. My family has been separated for a long time because of religious beliefs. Not that anybody, is doing them wrong. Yeah, family, they have arguments, they have things that need to be settled or whatnot, but at the root of it all is religious beliefs.
Right.
You don't practice this, I can't rock with you. I hate it, and I wish it would change.
Yeah.
Love. I think love is what we should all practice.
Yes, I love that. And I love love. This has been so awesome. Daniel, thank you so much for sharing your story on my podcast. Thank you for just having the courage to come up to me at soul sessions. Because honestly, about 4 or 5 other men came up to me and they were just like, yo, I could really relate, but they were doing it on the slick side because men, they don't, they aren't very expressive. So, but you came out like, hey, I want to share my story. But so many people is like, I could relate to, I built your resume. Like, yo, I felt that she did me wrong, blah, blah, blah. But you could see that they were kind of whispered, like, at the end of the day, don't forget I'm a man, But I just thank you for being open about your story. And you're in the process of a divorce now, right?
Yeah.
And, you came on and told your story, and it was never, ever to bash your current wife.
Not at all.
At all.
Not at all. She's the mother of my children. I have much respect for her, and at the end of the day, I want the best for her.
Absolutely. And I just want that to be clear. I don't bash anybody that I talk about, anything from my past. We are simply sharing our experiences, our stories to help heal someone else or bring clarification or just give them advice or how we dealt with things. So I thank you again for sharing your poems. I am confinement. I'm here for it. Please tell them how they can get in touch with you.
Well, I'm really only active on one platform, and that's Instagram. So my IG is poetic_gent. If you want to email me for any inquiries, I do write for people at times. So you can email the Shy Bard. That's THECHIBARD @gmail.com, and I'll get with you about whatever you may need.
Perfect. You guys, don't forget to follow up on all of the episodes you may have missed. Episodes 1 through 10. This is episode 11. Daniel is closing us out with season 1. This is the finale of More to the Story, the podcast. Don't forget to purchase your copy of Brokenness That Made Me Whole, available on Amazon, Kindle, Books A Million, Apple Books, as well as Chicago Public Libraries. I am your host, Jada Sharice. Until next time, because there's always more
to the story.
There you go. There's always more to the story.
Wanting to connect with me mentally. It was the questions he asked in return, the time he put in studying me, willing to learn. It was him repeating what I said to get a better understanding and to clarify. It was the effort he put in to get my